from Code to Courtroom, an initiative by LexTech, Center for Law, Entrepreneurship and Innovation of National Law University, Odisha. With an objective to encourage discourse in the field, we bring in this talk show where we invite industry experts from fields like AI, FinTech, TMT, data privacy, online gaming, and much more. The experts we host over a series of multiple episodes discuss the recent developments in these 5 emerging areas of law and technology. Also, they deal with various legal concepts in these areas by explaining the relevant laws and regulations involved. These sessions are conducted online via platforms like Google Meet and or Zoom and streamed to the entire student body, both inside and outside our college. We also upload the same on our YouTube channel, so you can still catch the episode if you miss it live. Moreover, the floor is open for questions during the episode as well. Hence, please raise your hands or put your questions in the chat box if you have any questions or queries. However, try to not unmute yourself during the course of the session in order to facilitate a smoother session. With that, sir, we welcome you to Season 1, Episode 3 of TechTales from Court to Courtroom, presenting our guest for today, Mr. Rajiv Mohapatra. Good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure.
We are really honored that you have you here.
No, so am I.
Definitely, sir. Just for the audience, I'll give a brief background about you. Rajiv sir has a remarkable career spanning over 2 decades. He is a highly accomplished corporate legal professional specializing in FinTech and banking laws. Currently, he is the Vice President, Global Legal Compliance at Mastercard. Sir had experience in spearheading and managing legal and regulatory issues. He has also practiced litigation in High Court of Odisha as well as the Supreme Court before moving into corporate legal leadership roles at City Financial, HSBC, and Vodafone Empasa. We welcome you, sir, to the show. In this episode, we will be covering 4 major topics. Firstly, we will be understanding various regulations and its framework pertaining to payment networks and fintech products in India, both in context of India as well as world. Then we will be deconstructing Mastercard Send as a product and additionally looking into the concepts pertaining to cross-border payments. After this, we would be discussing the current UPI ecosystem in the context of India and its internationalization, while also keeping in the notions of prepaid instruments. And lastly, we'll be looking into the concept of card portability and understanding regulations revolving around the same.
Before we move on to the technicalities and compliance segment of the session, I think everyone present here would want to hear about your college life and initial career days from someone as renowned as you, sir. You were going through your LinkedIn and we got to know that you were an excellent sports person in college. And since we're already struggling to keep up our co-curriculars and academic activities in balance in our third year itself, sir, could you provide some insights about your college life and apprise us of the activities you were involved in and how you managed all of that back in your college days?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you again for having me here. And it's a pleasure to interact with you all. That's quite an interesting question. In fact, unlike today, probably if I say in one word, there was no mobile at that point in time to play games. So we were forced to go out and whatever I have done in my college days, I have kind of carried from my school days. So have always been an outdoor person, playing various games, football, cricket, whatever we could get hands on. And that, in fact, carried on to, and mind you, in fact, I was doing my 3-year law course after my graduation, unlike you guys. So I got enough time in my bachelor's graduation days to play for my college and university, which I carried forward to the law college as well. So yeah, so have represented my college for inter-university nationals handball tournaments. So I was captain of my college at that point in time. Coming back to how I managed my time, probably it's just a passion that I had created over the years that I wanted to not only get into studies and spend my whole time going through the books, but also be outside. And so probably that's what motivated me in what I have done in my college days.
That's really nice.
And if I may say for you guys, probably the kind of course or the curriculum that you have now and the kind of information overload that you have right now, it's probably equally easy and difficult to manage time. Easy in the sense that you can get everything on a click of a button, and difficult because you have to skim through so many layers of information available in multiple medium that to probably scan through and form your view, it will take time, which was not the case in our time. So that's one. But having said that, sports is something which opens up your faculties of brain to a lot of other things and helps you in excelling in your studies as well. So I would sincerely recommend that people should follow, whether it is indoor or outdoor, but a sport should be there.
There is someone who also has an inclination towards sports. I completely resonate with you, sir. Moreover, especially in our college right now and in the fields that we expose ourselves to, there's immense controversy and buzz regarding deciding and choosing a career path to settle in from right or second and third year and streamlining our interest according to that. So, sir, as we know, initially, for the benefit of the audience, sir was a practicing lawyer and then transitioned to work as an in-house counsel. Could you elaborate on the two different forms of experiences that came with your job profile and how you transitioned from, say, litigation to being an in-house counsel? And moreover, sir, if you could also shed some light on the challenges which you faced across, like in this journey, it'd be really helpful for all of us.
Yeah. So primarily, I'm in fact a third generation lawyer in my family. So both of my grandparents were senior advocates, and maternal side went on to become a judge in Patna High Court. My dad is a senior advocate in Odisha High Court. But despite of having a legacy, I thought I am not keen on doing litigations. So I moved to joined a law firm, a boutique law firm in Delhi, who were also kind of senior lawyers in Supreme Court and were practicing on the criminal side. So I joined them to in their corporate side to do my corporate law practice. Since it was a small firm, so I got a lot of exposure on the criminal litigation side in the Supreme Court. And that's where my interest from the criminal litigation side kind of developed. And I then collaborated between my father's chamber and Delhi, and therefore practiced in both high courts and the Supreme Court of India. The transition basically, I would say one reason for that transition has been that I have always been open to new things and new ideas, to explore new things. So I take it as a challenge, and I would encourage you all to also kind of be open to whatever comes your way. Because where I have landed, if I would have been a straight-jacketed lawyer, I wouldn't have been our global legal compliance head today in Mastercard. So overseeing some 210 odd geographies across the world, having teams spread out across the globe. So, so the journey is that what triggers that journey is being so staying foolish, staying hunger, and just going on what's new that I can do, what's new that I can learn. So when I was practicing in the courts, a lot of the time what happened is I will meet the clients in the evening, prepare for the matter in the morning as well, go and sit in the court, and the entire day passes away without the matter reaching the board. And when that happened quite repeatedly, and it can happen quite repeatedly in high courts and Supreme Court because of the long list of matters. So then I got saying that it kind of seemed to me that I am wasting my time here, because I am not learning anything new, and neither I am able to hone my code craft. So that's when I thought of moving to in-house legal, and joined Escorts Finance uh, in Odisha itself, and then moved on to kind of lead the Eastern region, and from there to City Financial, HSBC, and others. The transition, if you, I have kind of always linked my past experience to my next role. So, for example, when I was doing a litigation practice, I brought that experience into my role in Escorts Finance. So to use that for the legal recovery work, to use that for negotiations, for settlement of accounts, and then there I moved on to City Financial to kind of do the next step of doing credit appraisal of loan, collections of the loan through the legal means, and then from that to HSBC, back into core legal work for the retail banking. So each step, I got something new to learn. Each step, I implemented that learning into my next role. And yes, just being open to new ideas, new work had helped me to kind of transition to the next level.
Definitely, sir. Perfectly makes sense that we should not limit ourselves to a particular case, and we should keep exploring new things and keep working on new things. Now
Absolutely.
moving on to the technicalities of the session, field of compliances and regulations, especially the payments network. Sir, it is a general observation that the payment network is one of the most heavily regulated markets of the world. Regulatory compliances of payment network.
So payments per se is definitely highly regulated across the world, and more so the business that we are in, particularly in Mastercard, Money Send, the product that I had, which is part of remittances. So, but coming back to your payments regulations across the world, it's always evolving, and it involves a lot of players. So therefore, if you see, banks are brick and mortar organizations, old system, heavily invested human resources, in-person banking, and lot of compliances, because they are the trustees of the money. They hold the money in their account. Then you have on the other side the fintechs. Then you have the intermediaries who process your payments. And you also have non-banking financial companies. So it's a mixture of a lot of different type of organizations in a financial ecosystem or a payments ecosystem. So for each, the regulation has evolved differently across the globe. For example, since banking is the oldest mean and method of the financial system, therefore it is the most, or the crypto platforms or the gaming and gambling platforms. So all of those has a separate risk appetite, and a separate monitoring of transactions, separate controls, and therefore each country's regulator have developed and issued specific guidelines to manage that particular segment of the financial institution or the payments institution. Now, just to give you a small example of one entity having a nation, the globe-wide impact, probably the right example would be using US sanctions. When we talk about the payments, the anti-money laundering and sanctions is a very hot topic, and everyone needs to monitor that, ensure that they are not dealing with sanctioned entities. And why so? It's primarily because that you need to ensure that you are complying with certain global regulations. So, for example, if I take the example of US OFAC, that organization issues mandates for sanctions, and they kind of sanction entities, individuals, so that the entire and they in collaboration with the United Nations, because United Nations also issues a special designated nationals list. So with them, they issue these mandates which are globally applied, and people follow those. Coming back to India, if you look at when India also follows that list, but India also has a separate list of persons who are declared as sanctioned persons. And if I talk about the very recent brouhaha going around between India and Canada relationship, that's primarily because US and Canada does not think the people who the India had marked them as terrorists, Canada allows them to move freely in their country. And therefore, since Indian list is not globally acceptable to all the parties, all the countries, unlike your UN list, therefore, Canada has the their own laws applying to it, saying that these people are not considered to be terrorists in my country. So therefore, the payments regulations for each country is based on that particular country's financial systems, that particular country's development of the financial ecosystem. For example, in India, probably India is now in the league of London and Singapore or Hong Kong in terms of fintechs. And we are probably one of the fastest moving economy in promoting fintechs and giving and having a lot of areas where fintechs are promoted and fintechs are flourishing. So regulations, the regulator, that is RBI, SEBI, or IRDA, or even the Ministry of Finance, they all bring in regulations in such a manner in consultation with that particular segment of the industry, so that that particular segment can flourish. And that is how the fintech has done pretty well here in India. So talked about is that one, within the financial ecosystem, the payments ecosystem, there are multiple players, and regulators have specific regulations addressing the risks and putting in the controls for that specific payments segment.
Perfect,
I
sir.
hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. Very well, sir. First, my next question is that you were also engaged in advising and drafting of industry-wide policy framework for fintech products and mobile wallets. We would request you to provide us with some inputs with regard to your experience and your insights during that time.
Sure. So, when being a lawyer, you are not only doing pure legal work when you get into a certain level. So when I was, or or maybe even prior to that, when I was assistant general counsel in HSBC, uh, there I used to manage, apart from I used to co-head retail banking in HSBC, retail banking legal in HSBC. So along with the work for retail banking, whether it is litigation, contracts, and other stuff, uh, I used to also kind of look into customer complaints from a legal perspective, how we can prevent that, how we can reduce the customer complaints, reduce the court cases. So in a way, I was working against my profile, or probably ensuring that it benefits the bank, but had all the probability of me losing the job. Because if there is no work, no legal work, then why would they hire a lawyer? But having said that, uh, uh, what so that in fact interacting with the regulators, so that is RBI, or that is, or whether it is SEBI. Now in those exposures kind of uh, generated an interest to work towards the policy. So when I joined Vodafone M-Pesa after HSBC, since I was the general counsel, so I was responsible for the overall legal and compliance risk for that particular business. And it was in 2013, if you, I don't know whether you would be able to recollect or not, but there were only 2 or 3 major players in the prepaid wallet. We were one of the first as M-Pesa, and there was Paytm, of course. Uh, so when interacting, and this was a business, RBI had a prepaid payment instrument master direction, a circular, but it was just a kind of guiding list of what we need to comply. So what I did was, I since I was coming from a bank, therefore I brought in that experience of the rigor of the legal and compliance controls in the business, and therefore developed the policies and processes for the business, so that it's when and in each of these business, since RBI is the regulator and those businesses are regulated entity, they come to do inspections of that business, annual inspection. So they were aware that we have put in all these policies and controls, and that itself kind of become a guiding force for them to kind of take back and propose to others, saying that here is a model, look at that, and we can then have a debate about whether all of these controls will apply to you guys, or it should not. And when we were, and during that time, there came this regulation, US regulation about FATF, sorry, FATCA, FATCA regulation, which means that no US citizen having an account anywhere else in the world cannot go undeclared in the anonymous in US in their tax declarations. It was mostly from a tax perspective. Now, RBI issued a circular saying that this should apply to the industry, to the finance industry here in India, and each entity, regulated entity, should do the assessment whether it applies to them or not. Now, when I did my assessment, I found out that this is something which is not applicable to our business, because the kind of thresholds that they have mentioned, we don't do, even our annual threshold will not be that. So we will anyways not meet the criteria. And that's when the engagement with the industry and RBI we had a lot to be the guidance from the RBI on this, and there should be some clarity from the regulators and the industry bodies for this particular segment of payment institutions. And those interactions kind of happens at a very high level because and not only at high level but with a different perspective altogether, because you are kind of looking at your business and other similar businesses from a different level altogether, so that you can bring in a uniformity in the policy. You can bring in changes in that regulations so that it does not impact negatively the business nor the customers. So that's how the journey was from being a pure play lawyer to get into the policy and interact with the regulators on various topics.
Sir, just a follow-up question on that. Since you have interacted with the regulators a lot, what approach do you found that the regulatory bodies or the policymakers generally keep in mind while drafting such guidelines?
So one thing that they always keep in mind is the benefit to the customer. The customer should not suffer. Whatever regulation you would see, it would always come with the intent customer first. And slowly and gradually, probably that has percolated from the regulators to big MNCs who kind of treat customers fairly and have a customer first approach. For example, you take Amazon. The motto is that always the first day for the customer, so that it's always the customer first and then you. So I think that's one aspect, customer. Second is they look at the controls, the risks. And just to give an example, when there was this FinTechs pre-COVID around 2017-18, there were a lot of these P2P lending, person-to-person lending platforms where you can go and register and you become a lender. And when I come and register to borrow some money, now the money collected from you and others in that platform will be given to me at a very high interest rate. And whatever return that you get, I mean, the FinTech gets, they pay you back with a certain percentage of interest, which is higher than your savings bank account or probably any other that you would have got from other sources. So and that was not regulated till then, because they were doing it saying that we are technology companies, we are not financial companies, hence we are not regulated by RBI and we are not supposed to be regulated by RBI. Now, RBI saw that there has been a lot of complaints from customers about this P2P lendings, charging astronomical sums of money as interest, very high interest rate, and a lot of spurious tactics to collect money and all of that. So therefore, they intervened and they said that this is a business which is related to lending, and for any kind of lending in this country, you need a license, and you need a license from the regulator, that is us. So no entity can do this business unless and until they have a license from us. And subsequently, once after they have put a break on these companies, then they came back, had a discussion with the industry, and they issued a P2P digital lending regulations, and therefore after that they issued licenses to the companies to do this digital lending. So regulators, one, they think from a customer perspective. Two, they look at the risks in the market. And three, they also look at the controls. So these two or three things becomes their primary uh, aspects uh, to look at and issue a regulation.
That was extremely insightful, sir. Like, none of us here could ever view that from the perspective of, say, someone who actually formulates the regulations and policies which governs fintech markets. We have a very different perspective of how the entire market functions, right? With this, we come to the end of our first segment. Moving on to the next segment, Sir is the Global Legal Compliance Lead for Mastercard Send, which is a remittance product. Sir, for starters, if you could please elaborate on what Mastercard Send is and how does it exactly function and what's the innovative aspect that it brings to the table for businesses as well as the consumer.
Yeah. So Mastercard Send is a remittance product. Now, in market, you would have remittances. Lot of companies doing remittances, and one of the pretty well-known organization would be Western Union, probably, apart from the banks. Now, Western Union is purely a remittance company. What Mastercard Send does is Mastercard Send is a Money Send is a remittance product which rides on the card rails. So, like you would swipe your card for a transaction, this remittance happens in a similar way on the card rail. So we use the Mastercard network to move money. Unlike in our Western Union case, where the money would move from our bank account to Western Union's account, then to Western Union's account in a particular country, which is probably if you're moving money from Dubai to India, then it will move from Dubai's bank to Western Union Dubai, from Western Union Dubai to Western Union India, and from Western Union India to your bank account. So there are different legs, and at each stage, Western Union is actually touching the money. Whereas for us, we are not touching the money. It moves like from one account to another account or one card to another card on those card rails. So I don't know whether you guys are aware, just to give you an example how card network works, is that the moment when you swipe your card, the message flows to your bank, which has issued the card, from the merchant who has swiped your card through his bank. So for example, there are in our model, there will be four parties. One is the customer. The second would be the acquiring bank, like the bank which has issued the POS machine to swipe your card. Third would be the issuing bank, and then in between we are there the Mastercard. So there is merchant as well. So customer, merchant, acquiring bank, and issuing bank, and in between there is Mastercard. So how the money moves is that when you as a customer go and swipe your card at a merchant point, say Big Bazaar, Big Bazaar would have a tie-up with the bank, which would have, say, ICICI Bank had issued them a POS machine, for example, and ICICI Bank will contact, suppose you have used, say, HDFC Bank's card. ICICI Bank will send a message through Mastercard to HDFC Bank. HDFC Bank will approve or decline the transaction within that fraction of seconds, and you get a success or a decline message on your POS machine. So in the similar rails, on the same network movement, the money that Mastercard or the money sends remittances also happens in a similar fashion. So the difference or the USP that we bring onto the table is that since it moves on the card network, so it's much faster than any other, because if you do it in a Western Union kind of a scenario, then probably it would take, if not anything, few hours, if not a day or more. But in our case, you can do it in 30 minutes, sometimes even faster than that. The other differentiators that we bring in is that you can do person-to-person transfer, you can pay it to the merchant, you can move money from your account to another account, you can do disbursements by the government that's happening today, can be done through this. So taking the Indian scenario as an example, if everyone has a Jan Dhan account today linked to a debit card, then the money can move from the government to that account pretty quickly. Like today, the transactions probably would be happening on UPI or RTGS or NEFT. So similarly here, you can move money pretty quickly on those channels. But the USP that I talked about was that the first USP is that this is moving on the card network rails, therefore it's much faster than any other means. Second is that it's a secured way of moving money, because when you do a card transaction, it comes with a lot of security. Those inherent security are provided by Mastercard. The fraud check, the cyber security, the man in the middle, and all of that is checked by Mastercard. So you get that assurance as well. So that's the USP that you bring in.
So when reading up on the topic, the topic also, the security that Mastercard Send provides over other remittances product is something that is highlighted by numerous organizations. So getting a further insight on it was very interesting. It's a reminder to the audience for any questions that they have as of now to pose to Sir Rajiv sir. If not, then we can move on to the further questions. If you have any questions, either raise your hands or put it in the chat box.
There's someone, Gargi, who has raised her hand.
Yes, Gargi, I think you can go ahead.
Gargi, you are on mute probably. Can't hear you.
Good evening, sir. Am I audible now?
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, so my question is, what cards are eligible for Mastercard Send transactions?
Okay, so all form of cards. So we have three form of cards primarily today. One is your debit, credit, and prepaid. So all the format of the cards are eligible for Mastercard Send.
So, sir, furthermore, a follow-up question to this is how does the Mastercard Send and the cards eligible for it fit in the agenda of cross-border transactions? Are there any specific regulations that govern cross-border transactions that also govern Mastercard Send?
Yes. So in India, in fact, the cross-border remittances are governed by the FEMA regulations and various circulars that RBI issues related to the foreign exchange or the AD category 1 or 2 banks, what they are allowed and not allowed to do from time to time. And going to the global, in fact, globally also, cross-border transactions are governed by the foreign exchange regulations. Why? Because there is always a markup on the trading of the currency. So since most of the currencies in the world are not fully convertible, unlike your pound sterling or USD or probably Japanese yen, so a lot of these countries, they govern those foreign exchange transactions basis the foreign exchange regulations that they have. And particularly coming back to India, in fact, in India, and not only India, in a lot of the emerging markets, I would say, the inbound of, say, foreign currency or dollars is kind of given a little more flexibility than sending out money, which would kind of impact your balance of payments from a country's economy's perspective. Does that answer your? Yeah.
Yes, yes, that does, sir. However, that question I think leads us all to another much prevalent payment network that all of us are a part of today, which is Unified Payments Interface, UPI. So, sir, what is your take on the Indian effort to make UPI a medium of cross-border payments, like the globalization of the same? Because I think France recently also adapted some aspects of it. And what do you think should be the future course of action from a regulatory standpoint to achieve global best standards? Because it's something that is very centralized in India itself and not available as globally as regulatory bodies would have liked it to be.
Let me say, UPI is a competitive product. So I would not comment on them, but what is there in the public news, let me talk about that. And having like whatever the world may say about UPI and its competition vis-a-vis the cards and other stuff, UPI has created its mark, not only in India, but across the world as well. And when we are the kind of ease of moving money through a UPI and the way it moves, there is no doubt that it has created a segment for itself. But globally, if you see that particular technology, if I may say, that is akin to your open banking. Now, what is open banking? Open banking allows moving money from one account to another. So you do a transaction and instantly the money moves from your account to another account. Now, UPI has kind of followed that technology and created a much more wider ecosystem along with it. So, and globally, in fact, open banking has been there for quite some time, especially in the developed markets like London. But slowly and gradually, we are seeing that this model of UPI will be replicated in some form or factor, and the open banking technology will also be kind of expanding to cover a lot of use cases within it.
So, sir, as you speak about the expanding of the UPI network, as I understand correctly, that there were certain guidelines issued which were in effect from the 1st April of this year, making prepaid instruments a part of the UPI system. So, do you have any views on how this will affect the customers and the already existing framework that UPI has already laid out, say, especially in India? And also its effect on merchant transactions, is that something that gets affected a lot after putting prepaid instruments in the entire ambit of UPI?
So, even today, I think UPI is kind of free for all. So no one in the ecosystem probably is making money. And to a certain extent, linking the prepaid or bringing in prepaid into UPI, you would see that all the prepaid wallet providers have actually been providing the UPI service for quite some time now. If you, for example, if you take Paytm in India and PhonePe or Google Pay, so amongst that, Paytm and PhonePe are we call them as stored wallets. Like you can store money in those wallets. And Google Pay is a pass-through wallet where you can just move money from your account to merchant's account, but it goes through the Google Pay technology or the system. So So bringing in prepaid was a natural progression for the regulator, and it was nothing new per se. It was a logical step, I would say.
Definitely, sir. It was really impactful session, and we really got to know a lot of things. Moving to our last segment, we would want you to discuss about what exactly is card portability, what are its uses and its benefits. I think we have a question. Sir, yeah, please, sir. You can go ahead.
So I think the question pertains to UPI itself. Would you like me to read it out for your convenience, or it's just
No,
present in the chat box?
so the question, thanks Anjali for asking that. An RBI appointed committee has recommended that RBI should examine the extension of DICGC cover to prepaid payment instruments. Presently, it is available only for bank deposits. So what do you think of this session, or what do you think will be the implications of it? Well, as I mentioned earlier, whatever the regulator brings out is only from a perspective of benefiting the customers. So therefore, if you look at what would be the implications for a customer, I think it would be definitely positive. What would be the impact on the companies who are issuing prepaid instrument? Probably there would be more legal and compliance obligations on them. They need to probably comply with few more aspects than they have been doing that to bring in and ensure that they are complying with the regulations for the ICGC. But ultimately, if you see, RBI had also increased the limit of your savings accounts or bank accounts insurance from, I think, 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs. Now, if they bring a similar thing to your prepaid card, then it's only going to benefit the larger ecosystem.
Are there any other questions from the audience? If not, we can move on to our next segment, which is card portability. If there's any questions pertaining to, say, compliance, regulations, or the UPI ecosystem, we can have them right now.
Yeah. Hey, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, sir. My name is Garima. So my question was regarding, I mean, it's a little offbeat, but regarding competition compliance with regards to multinationals like Mastercard. And as far as I know, the case of Mastercard was also one of the first ever cases that came up with regards to peer-to-peer transactions and how that would play out. So what do you, how, I mean, as far as I know, like companies like Mastercard are coming also up with technology day in and day out. So how do you think competition compliance, especially in digital markets and cards going online, would play out?
So in fact, we have our dedicated competition lawyers who look at each product and kind of ensure that we are compliant with all the markets that we are operating in. And whatever new product that is launched or introduced in that market goes through a rigorous review by the team. So having said that, cards moving online or the transactions and by cards moving online, I don't know whether you are talking about digital cards like Apple Pay or Apple Card that you have in US and other countries, not in India yet. It's nothing but a similar thing what you would have instead of a plastic. It uses the same technology, it operates in the same four-party model, uses the same network. Only thing is you are not holding a plastic, but it's there on the screen of your phone.
Yes, sir.
And related to what other companies are doing, so usually we call ourselves not, in fact, we are not card network companies, we are technology companies. We address ourselves as technology company now. And in that segment, in payments, you would see that lot of innovations are happening. And each of them will only help us in moving forward, one in a sustainable manner, second in a very environment friendly manner, because in our case we have been working on how to reduce the plastic usage and move to alternate ways of issuing cards. And therefore what you mentioned, Garima, the digital mode is one of the things that could take prominence in the years to come.
Right, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Does anyone have any further questions? If not, we can start with card portability. Sir, if you could explain what card portability is and what are its uses and benefits.
So card portability, in fact, is what RBI had intended in that regulation. Is that what happens a lot of the time is that one particular card company or a company like, whether it is Mastercard, Visa, Amex, Diners, Rupee, all of that, those names are mentioned in that RBI regulations. If you take any of them today, probably depending on the card type, because if you go to a particular bank, you would see various segments, customer segments. One would be probably a card that would be for entry-level credit issuers or entry-level borrowers. Would be the other end would be premium segment, where probably the card would be without any limit. It would be a open charge card, and there are various things for it. It comes with a lot of kind of goodies attached to it. As a card holder, you would feel a little more privileged than other card holders in any other segment. So keeping that in mind, RBI said that, and why is that happening is primarily because a particular card company would have tied up with a bank, giving them signing some exclusive deals, and therefore restraining the customer from moving out. So for example, if a customer has gone to, say, Mr. X has gone to bank A and asks for, say, a card, the bank A would say that I will only issue, say, a particular branded card. If you are looking for these XYZ features, then that is only with, say, either Mastercard, or you will only find it with Amex, or you will only find it with Rupee, but none other. And that was a kind of exclusive deal by the card companies, networks with the banks. So RBI said that to promote the flexibility to the customer, the card portability should be allowed. And what that means is that the bank cannot force me to take a particular X branded card, but I can, as a customer, move into a different type of card in the same bank. So therefore, today, if I'm holding, say, Mastercard, tomorrow I can apply for a Rupee card, and with similar features. So that is what RBI is hinting at, and RBI is against the exclusive deals. So if you see, they would have mentioned in that regulation that the banks should allow the customer to move to a different card, and there would not be exclusive deals in particular.
Sir, can you discuss a little about how it will impact the card companies and the consumers as well?
It doesn't impact the card companies as much, because what RBI is trying to say is that if so, a lot of the market is expanding, right? A lot of people are coming into issuing cards. A lot of NBFCs are also keen to issue cards. So today there is the largest player is SBI Cards, which is the NBFC which issues cards. But there are other NBFCs who are keen on issuing cards. So if the market expands, the card companies were earlier trying to sign exclusive deals. So RBI says that you cannot sign the exclusive deals anymore. You need to have at least one other player so that there is a parity and the customer gets the choice to go with X or Y branded card. So in that, keeping that in mind, while it helps the consumer quite a lot, it does not impact as much the business of the card companies.
Definitely, sir. Thank you so much for coming for this session, sir. We really got to know a lot of things, a lot of new things we learned from you. If anyone from the audience have any more questions.
Yes, I think like we've yes, we've delved a lot about a lot of technicalities, legalities, learned a lot of new things from a different perspective that we wouldn't have been exposed if it wasn't for this session, sir. And all of it coming from someone with your expertise, with your experience, with your knowledge, is especially at the point of time that we are in law school, getting it to know from someone who's worked in that field for so long is immensely helpful and interesting. With that said, are there any questions from the audience that we can take up? And it can be related to simplify any concepts for you, or say sir's experience, or say a general career perspective.
So since there are no questions, let me just give you a little more of as a student what because you all would be moving towards to build a career. That's the ultimate goal, right? Whether you end up doing litigation, corporate, or anything related to law. My only advice to you guys is do not bucket yourself or decide or get disheartened saying that I got only X number of law firms to do this, or I wanted to do in a Y law firm, or I wanted to do in X company, because each experience will help you in moving forward. Each experience, whether it is at a top law firm or a boutique law firm, will carry equal value if you are able to implement that in your job or in your studies or in your learning process. Unless and until you do that, whether how many internships you do in a big law firm and even manage to get a PPO, if you are not able to implement your learning and you are not open to new things, probably you will not succeed in what you are trying to achieve.
So I think I have a follow-up question for that, especially like with all of the people that I've spoken to, say from the in-house field, most people suggest to not say intern or work for as an in-house counsel or do in-house internships for a greater part of your law school before you do say general corporate or compliances in corporate firms as of such. Do you agree with that notion and perception, or do you think if that's somewhere you want to end up, you should try it, say from the very go?
But why do the people say that whosoever says that not to intern in-house? Why is that? Is there any particular reason?
So I think we have this general notion that in-house counsel have very little work to do, and so we have little work to learn during our internship. So that is the reason, I guess.
Okay. So, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. Not all companies or all the big companies would come for in-house internships. But I know for sure there are few big banks who go for in-house internships, who in fact go to the campus for legal interns and also do PPOs as well, and go for final campus placements. So if those companies are coming to campus, hiring, willing to hire people from the law college, then they are uh, definitely looking for freshers. They are looking for candidates who can work, and they would do all in their capacity to give them the exposure. So, and considering you are in a college, and this is not only you guys, but generally a perception of students nowadays is that we should do it more in the law firms so that we get a chance to it's probably easier to get a PPO in law firm than in-house, but it's not true. The companies who are like you can identify the companies who are coming for your annual placement, or not only to your college, anywhere in any other college, and you do internships with them, they would have definitely enough and more to give you your learning.
Thank you so much, sir. That's very insightful, because especially when we as law students, when we start interning or when we start looking out for internships or say job prospects, there's a lot of buzz in the market about what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. And a lot of times it's censored with say misinformation and people that aren't as experienced as you are. So that's very insightful to know. I think we have a question from Krishna. So she says that related to card portability, providing customers with various card networks does give us as consumers the benefit, but what is the incentive for the banking and non-banking institutions to do the same? I think it's a question that all of us have mostly when we look at card networks and portability news around the globe. So if you could provide some insight on
so
that.
from a banking institution's perspective, one is that a lot of people are today pretty aware about the card and its features and what comes with a particular card. So and just to give you an example, if you are using a Amex card, there are dedicated lounges in the airports only for Amex card holders. So you don't need to go to the general lounge. So that's the USP that they bring in. But keeping that in mind, if Amex, say for a particular bank, only has a tie-up with Amex and not with any other card holders, then the card holder is kind of suffering because he doesn't have a choice. And bank also loses that card customer because that card customer is not willing to take Amex, which comes with a cost. So therefore, for a bank to have a bouquet of product to cater to the customer, because bank none of the financial institutions would want to lose the customer. So therefore, they would keep a bouquet of products to cater to that customer so that they can cross-sell that customer a lot of other things. So the benefit to the banks is the one, retaining the customer, two is cross-selling to that customer subsequently.
Definitely,
Card
sir.
portability doesn't affect the security of card transactions. So it will not, because each card company have a separate way of doing the fraud checks, doing the cyber security monitoring, ensuring the transaction is done within a specific time. They look at the pattern, they look at the customer's behavior of transactions, and therefore the security doesn't get compromised because each card company has enough and more security for the product.
Sir, I think I had a follow-up question from that. So after the RBI draft circular that I think, if I'm assuming, it came around February this year, and it's also pertaining to Garima's question about competition compliance. So the three major stakeholders, especially in our country right now, are Mastercard, RuPay, and Visa, if I'm correct. So after the draft circular came up, there was a lot of talks pertaining to competition compliance issues relating to card portability, where RuPay wasn't put forward as much as Visa and Mastercard came in a collaboration kind of news. So is that something that's possible, firstly? And secondly, how does it affect the already existing payments market in India?
Sorry, what was about Master or Visa? I missed that bit.
So, sir, right after the draft circular was released, there was a lot of buzz and controversy pertaining to Mastercard and Visa collaborating because of the draft circular. There was a few news articles that I went across it. And there was also a lot of speculation on say, RuPay not getting that kind of opportunity. So firstly, are these speculations that you, as someone in a compliance expert position, delve into or take into consideration? And secondly, if yes, how does it affect the payments market that already exists?
It I would say that, as I mentioned earlier, that there were exclusive deals for a particular type of card. There were exclusive deals for a particular segment of card. And since on the credit card side, Master and Visa are probably the market leaders, therefore we had much more deals than anyone else in the market. With this, however, that was RBI saw that as a restrictive and not giving customers a choice, and therefore they suggested that we should there should not be exclusivity, but the customers should be allowed to kind of get the choice for availing services of the other card networks.
That does make sense, sir. Are there any other questions from the audience? I assume none. So thank you so much for joining us today, sir. I cannot reiterate it enough how important and how insightful it is for us as law students to get to interact with someone at a position as yours. We will also be circulating a feedback form among the audience, even the people who have already left due to other commitments, and we can generate a certain kind of feedback. Please give us feedback in order to improve our further sessions with incoming guests. Sir, again, I'll end it with saying that it was a delight having you. We understood concepts that we were firstly not aware of, and even if there were concepts that we were aware of, we understood a different perspective to it that we wouldn't have got the chance to discover or explore, especially as law students. The session wasn't just restricted to, say, technicalities or compliance based, but it also gave us a lot of insights on career prospects, especially from someone at a position who switched between career prospects and excelled in each of them, also utilizing all of law school as you could, not restricting yourself to academics, how to balance co-curriculars. It's something that all of us loved having you today. Naman, if you want to say something.
Thank you so much, Samriddhi.
Yes, sir. It was really an impactful session. We got to learn a lot of new things, especially career-wise, your college life. There was a lot of things and the technicalities that we got into. We really hope that we someday have another collaboration with you where we invite you again on some topic. Looking forward to meet you again. Thank you so much.
Absolutely a pleasure to talking to all of you, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So all of you are welcome. And whenever you need any kind of advice, guidance, feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, sir. We as individuals and also LexTech as a center, we would love to collaborate with you again in the future for our future plans and endeavors. We also hope to be connected to you via platforms. With the feedback form, I think we can attach sir's LinkedIn ID so that for the benefit of the audience, people can connect with sir and then look forward to what sir is doing in his professional career. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much to the entire audience who joined us. We will be circulating certificates and a feedback form very soon. If there's anything, if there's nothing else left, I think we can end the session today.
Thank you. All
Thank
the best
you
to
so
you.
much, sir. Also, this was a recorded session. So, sir, if you're okay with it, can this be uploaded on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It was a great
Thanks.
hosting you.